Hey everybody, this is Kelly. I'm here to help you out with a valve cover replacement job on a 4.6 liter Ford engine. If you have a 2003 or 2004 Ford, Lincoln, or Mercury vehicle, those would be specifically the Grand Marquis, the Crown Victoria, and the Lincoln Town Car. All of those vehicles use the 4.6 modular V8. So if you're going to change valve covers, then this is a very easy job to do. There's a couple other videos out here on YouTube that have, unfortunately, while they try to help people, those videos are actually containing more work that you don't need to do. This is backed up by the Ford factory manual, which comes on DVD. This is online anywhere you want to buy it. It's about $15, maybe $16, depending on where you buy it. It's good for all model years 2003 and 4, and it's for all vehicles, Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury. And on that disc, you can look up the component locations, wiring diagrams, and service procedures. As you see, you can also print those service procedures out. You don't have to have your computer with you. You don't have to set it, somewhere on the engine or worry about dropping it. All you have to do is go online, order the disc, then put the disc in your computer, and anytime you want to work on your car, just print off the pages you need. As you see, today's procedure is the valve cover for the left-hand side, and it even tells you what you need, and if you want to buy aftermarket and you don't want to buy Ford Motorcraft, you can actually use the specifications and look up, same part numbers. The service procedure is really easy. It's only a page. I think it's actually a page and a half, 2 pages here. This page is actually for the right side where we have to disconnect a couple fuel lines, but we don't have to do that for the driver's side. On the driver's side, it's really easy to do, and I've already gone ahead and done some of the work. For those of you who are pretty familiar with cars, this is basically a matter of taking off the engine cover, which is right there, and the intake tube. And as you know, the intake tube goes from the air filter housing, goes directly to the air intake, and for safety I just put a rag in there to make sure I don't get anything dropped in there, screws, nuts, or bolts. On the 4.6, it's really easy. If you look over by the master cylinder, according to the service directions, all we're going to do is disconnect 3 plugs. We've got the 16-pin plug, which is right down here below the master, and that's right there. We've got the 42-pin plug, which it doesn't have a clip connector. This is actually a screw-in connector. The bolt goes right down the middle, and that bolt is right here. So all you do is put an 8mm socket on it, spin the bolt, and the connector will come and back out of. I'll try to line it up for you so I can show it to you what it looks like when it's connected. Alright. Okay, so I'm holding it in place. Let me try to get a better angle. All you do is when you spin that bolt on the back of it, this will back out, and all you do is just set this aside. The last pin connector you will remove is the transmission connector. That's this one over here, and it's also got a square plug. All you do is just squeeze or use a screwdriver on the release tab up top here where my thumb is, and just squeeze that, pull it apart. Once you have those 3 connectors pulled apart, there's nothing else you need to do with the master cylinder or brake booster. If you've seen other videos on how to do this valve cover replacement job or the gasket replacement, you don't need to pull the brake booster out, and you definitely don't have to do anything with the master or the brake lines. This is a really easy job. Once you disconnect those 3 pins, connectors, just pull off your fuel injector connectors from all 4 cylinders, and also pull off the coil unplug for each cylinder. So you're going to have an injector plug, which is the orange plugs. There we go, better shot of it. And we're going to pull off the ignition coil plugs as well. Do this for all 4 cylinders. So just squeeze them, pull them apart. Do this for all 4, so you have a total of 8 plugs. Finally, when we're ready to move the harness out of the way to get the valve cover off, each of these harnesses has, if you can see that, it's got just a push-on grommet. All you do is take a pair of needle nose or just, your hand if you want to just pull it straight off. Comes off the stud and just position the whole harness out of the way. As you work towards the front of the engine, there's a couple more connectors you need to disconnect, and those are actually shown right here. This is really nice manual to have. You disconnect all the connectors, and it's kind of common sense. Whatever's in the way right here at the front cover, you just disconnect those and move everything out of the way. And once you've disconnected everything, as you can tell, I've already disconnected everything to try to make it a little more easy. Do be really, really careful. This is the cam sensor connector. You don't want to break that. It's not a cheap item. Also, it's kind of a butt to change. If you break it off, then you're going to have to change it. So just pull this plug straight out and set the whole harness aside. I actually kind of tucked it out of the way, and it wasn't too much of a pain to deal with. What I did is, there's a stud right here where my finger is, and I just took the whole harness and kind of tucked it behind that stud, and as long as it stayed behind the cam sensor, it wasn't really in my way. Finally, all you need is an 8mm long socket, or if you want to call it a deep well. Most of your studs on the top require that 8mm, and as you get back towards the back of the valve cover, those are standard bolts. I've taken those bolts out. Again, they're 8mm. They're really easy to get out. Just use an 8mm on them. And they're not size specific, so they're all the same. Once you get all these bolts out, set them aside. Remember that the studs go on the top, and the reason for that is so that the harness can attach to the stud, keep the harness from moving around. On the bottom, this was a little unique on my car. I don't know if all of you have the same size bolt, but this one was a 13mm for some reason. I don't know. Maybe the first owner had this job done, and whatever it was, they put a different size bolt in there. So if you have this oddball, try to remember it goes at the front and the bottom. After that, it was all the 13mm, or back to the 8mm bolts again. And these don't require a deep well. These are standard heads. So now that we've got all the nuts, bolts, and the harness out of the way, this is the easy part. All you have to do is, like I said, don't move the brake booster, don't disconnect anything inside the car like the other video shows you. You don't even have to take the master out of the way. It is a tight fit, but you don't need to take it apart. All you're going to do is simply lift the valve cover off. It's plastic, it's really easy, it's pretty light. So what I do is just give it a good thump, and it comes loose. And I'm trying to do this one-handed. You may need two hands, but because I'm holding the camera right now, what I'm do with two hands is I put one hand at the front when I was doing this by myself, not holding the phone, lift up in the front, forgot that bolt. I lift up the bottom, and here's where it gets important. What you're going to do is you're going to roll it towards the top of the engine, towards the intake. Don't lift straight off and try to pull. Don't lift straight off and try to pull it over towards the brake booster. It won't work. Lift straight up, and what you're going to do is, as you lift up, you're going to simply take, I don't know if I can prop this up somewhere. Yeah, we'll try it right there. You're going to lift it up and simply slide your hand underneath it. So it's like this. I'll get you a shot of it in just a second. And as you lift up, you're going to pull forward. And as you pull it forward, it will just clear over the top of the valve cover. Okay, here we go. Okay, so as you see, it goes right by the brake booster. It actually touches it, but you're not going to break anything. This is the factory way to do it. So you're going to lift up and give it a turn. And as you see, it comes out. And you don't have to move the booster, you don't have to pull the master, and you don't have to do anything on this side by jacking up or lowering the motor in any way. All I've done to make this easier, I'm a tall guy, so I just drove the car up on blocks. And when you do this, I did forget to mention, disconnect that negative battery cable. Not only does the factory book say to do that, but you are disconnecting a lot of sensors, and you don't want the computer to set the engine light when you plug everything back in. Even though the key's off, the computer will still know when things are disconnected or reconnected. So just as a safety precaution, disconnect that negative post. So this is going to end the video for now. We're going to change the gasket. I will start the video when everything is ready to put back together. Okay?